Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Thursday. That means taking it back with my very good friends, Frankie Val and Zach Payne. What's going on, guys? How we doing today?
Hey, good to see you guys, as always.
Yes, yes. Shout out to the fam over on Badlands Media. Thank you guys so much for syndicating today's broadcast. Do us a favor as you pop on in here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button and share the link wherever you're watching. To all my friends on pill.net, make sure you hit that red pill button and repost the show. Guys, it's been an interesting week this week. This whole situation in the Middle East has just brought up all kind of different interesting topics here. I want to start today with this quote from Chuck Schumer over the proposed spending bill by Mike Johnson or not by just Mike Johnson, but by the GOP in the House. And essentially what he did was he decoupled support for Ukraine and Taiwan and a bunch of other stuff and put up a standalone spending bill to support Israel. And what was interesting about it was instead of printing 14 billion new dollars, the bill reallocates $14 billion that was given to the IRS, that $80 billion to the IRS during the what they call it, the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes.
So it would reappropriate $14 billion away from the IRS into support for Israel. I mean, I'm not for sending money to any foreign country at this point, but if it's money that's already kind of printed and allocated, I guess that's the best way to do it. Now, Chuck Schumer on this bill said
woefully inadequate. I can hear his voice saying those words. Woefully inadequate.
The efforts of the new speaker are woefully inadequate.
It contains no aid to Ukraine. I can hear that whiny cottonmouth voice of his. My Dracula senator.
He's mad. Yeah, so it contains no aid for the Ukraine, nothing for Gaza, and nothing for the Indo-Pacific. And he says the new speaker knows perfectly well that if you want to help Israel, you cannot propose legislation that is, this is my favorite, full of poison pills. So the lack of spending in other places now, the lack of the omnibus nature, the fact that these Congress critters have to debate and vote on a bill that only does one thing at a time, that in itself is a poison pill.
Sacrilege. I mean, they're going to have to work twice as hard to pass another bill. Good God. You know, single issue bills are just they're the way to go. And I'm glad to see Mike doing that. I too am not a big fan of sending our money that's not even real money, but still we're going to have to pay it back, or our children will at least, to foreign nations. You know, I mean, so we're going to send money to Israel, and then we're also going to send money to Gaza so that they can both use the money we're sending them to kill each other. I think that's just so incredibly stupid. You couldn't get much dumber if you tried, but I mean, this is Congress after all, so they'll probably surprise me. So I think that taking the money from the IRS is a brilliant move. Because let's be honest, I mean, they're going to figure out a way to get money to the Middle East regardless. And if it means that fewer IRS agents are going to be armed with 10 millimeter Berettas so that they can come crashing into our homes like that classic FBI SWAT team meme, then I'm good with it. Let's just take more money and allocate it someplace else.
Well, what's more American than funding both sides of a war? So
yeah, I mean, what the hell? That's our patriotic duty, right?
It's our patriotic duty to fund all sides of a war and the humanitarian efforts that are needed afterwards.
That's right. That's right. What are you, an anti-Semite? We got to make sure we're killing Jews and Muslims.
And then we'll help you rebuild.
That's right. That's right.
Aren't we
Hearts
great?
And minds, right?
God.
What an altruistic empire we have here, guys. I mean, look, we may support death and destruction, but we do it evenly on both sides of the war.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, what more could you ask for, right? You know, it's like making sure both your kids get equal parts candy on Halloween.
Are you guys encouraged by Mike Johnson in his first week or so as speaker? I mean, I know there's very little to go off of, but the fact that he's kind of stuck to the single issue bills in the first few weeks and hasn't tried to cobble anything together and hasn't really immediately bent to the pressures of the Senate or the White House, or, you know, he seems to actually be playing ball, which I find a little bit encouraging, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, that in itself, I mean, that is just, it's interesting to see that happen, single issue bills. But, you know, other than that, we'll see. Time will tell, and we'll have to get we're only going to have a year with him potentially. Yeah. So let's just see what happens from now until next fall, next winter, and then he'll have a nice grade afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, truly, the only thing we can do is just watch it play out. But I mean, if we're going to be talking about single issues, then I think it really bodes well for the stage that he's setting by only addressing a single issue in that first week and not attempting to move beyond that. I kind of think that Johnson's a sleeper agent because, you know, so he comes in, he gives Congress exactly what they've been asking for, which is money for the Middle East, but he decouples it from anything else. And then stealthily, he takes it from one of Joe Biden and the regime's pet projects, which is arming these IRS agents. And although, you know, it's like a win and a loss, but at the same time, it's another win because it's the single issue. So, I mean, he's forcing the Democrats to complain about getting exactly what they want. It's just not in the way that they want. And so it causes this news cycle to now be focused on the fact that they're unsatisfied about the manner in which their wishes are being addressed. And so I think that at the end of the day, Johnson will accumulate some goodwill in Washington, D.C. as a result of doing this, but he's also accumulating goodwill from the people because he's kind of sticking with the rules that the Freedom Caucus was trying to put into place. The proof is going to be in the pudding. We can only watch it play out and see how he does.
I think the big test here, I think what's going to really show me something is when, because the White House is saying that they will veto this bill for Israel without the you know, pulling money from the IRS. I think is the big thing the White House doesn't like. You know, Chuck Schumer says it's basically dead on arrival because it doesn't give aid to Ukraine. So I think the big test is going to be, you know, these crazy Israel first people in the GOP, and they're, you know, they trip over themselves to support Israel every chance they get to send the money or whatever, when they can no longer pull it from the IRS, or, you know, they can't get that money to Israel without cooperating with the Ukraine and whatnot. What's going to be more important to them? Their word to their voters that they're not going to be coupling things together like this anymore, or their need to fulfill that allegiance to their first true love, which is Israel. That is going to be super interesting to me, because this bill is not going to go through. It's going to get stopped in the Senate. It's going to get stopped by the White House, unless I'm completely misreading the tea leaves here. He's going to have to decide, or the GOP is going to have to decide what's more important: promises to the constituents, running the House the right way, or getting that money to the Israeli government.
I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? It's almost like Johnson has forced a stalemate on the issue. You know, I mean, as far as we are concerned, I don't want any more money going out of the United States into foreign coffers. Clearly, certain elements of Congress want that to happen. And so Johnson gave them that in a certain sense, but now they're going to reject it, which is going to force it off the table. And quite often when bills don't get passed after a number of tries, they just go back into the dustbin of history. So who knows? Maybe this is the end of foreign aid.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah,
that'd be something.
You can dare to dream, gentlemen.
That just made me. I just let out one of those stereotypical sighs. Like, imagine that. Imagine that. Oh my God. You know, it doesn't even matter. In a way, it doesn't even matter, because usually foreign aid, especially when it started out, as Ron Paul would say, it's taking from poor people in rich countries and giving it to rich people in poor countries. But now, but now, so many of the poor people in poor countries are here in the rich country that even if we cut off foreign aid, we still have to spend money on them here.
Yeah.
So it's still foreign aid because now the foreigners are living within our borders.
No, that's a great point.
Domestic distribution of foreign aid.
Exactly. Exactly.
Brian Cates had a tweet that I thought was pretty spot on. I'm curious what you guys think about this. I like following Brian here on Twitter. He puts a lot of good, thoughtful stuff out there. He says, here's the brutal truth. We are nowhere near the point at this time where we could cut all funding to Israel, not even close. This is going to take some time. Go ahead and rant if it makes you feel better. Let it out, get it out of your system. We still have a lot of work to do. But notice we've slain the Ukraine dragon. Now we have a speaker who is willing to shut off Ukraine. And people are waking up to the new Israel psyop that was the Forever Wars machine is currently running. As one of the most well-known corrupt nations in the world, Ukraine took a while to get fully exposed. The psyop they ran on Ukraine was intense. It took some time for many people to see through it. The key difference that is going to make Israel extremely difficult to expose is the U.S. public has spent several generations being conditioned and programmed by their authorities to see Israel as an unquestioned ally that is above reproach. So any bill that completely shuts the door on Israel money has zero chance of passing at this point. It is what it is. Be realists about it, about this. This is going to take some time. The good news is they've lost the total narrative control they had when Ukraine started. And once they lost it, the Ukraine psyop quickly unraveled. It's going to be a big uphill battle to educate the global community about Israel's role in globalism in America last, but it can be done. Let's get started and press on.
It's a great point. It really is a great point. And the other thing about that is last night I had a caller that came on in the second half, and he said, Frank, have you seen any pro-Israeli marches anywhere? Like you're especially, and I said, well, there's usually demonstrations and counter demonstrations, whatever, but nothing like we're seeing with these demonstrations that are being labeled pro-Hamas, and whereas there are probably, bloodthirsty, a gang-like mentality people inside of those crowds, we know the greater story is that it's pro-ceasefire. Okay, that's really what's going on there. Yes, Hamas is they're reaping the benefits of that, but for example, but that's what I see. He said, have you seen any? Where's the pro-Israel demonstrations? I said, well, really, all I'm seeing is the media, the broadcast media. Those are the only ones I see taking consistent big swings in that favor. Watching the World Series over the last couple of nights, every time they come back from commercial, it's text to donate to the atrocities it's always the atrocities in Israel, which when innocent people are murdered, it is an atrocity, but that is not the whole story, and it's certainly not where the story begins. So there's things like that going on. But it's amazing to see how this has really shattered people into contradictory fragments. Whole parties. The Democrat Party's got a real image problem right now. They got a real personnel problem right now because of where the old way of doing things and the squad way of doing things. There's so many weird, just shattered fractions of things that are all over the place, and there is no unity on the issue. And I'd have to imagine that kind of skepticism it started to become a lot more comfortable for people to embrace with Ukraine, because it was so easy to see how this is part of the same thing. I mean, have you guys noticed how quickly Russia became Iran? Now I'm seeing all of the everyday. This morning I woke up and I saw so-and-so, it might be Reuters, might be AP, I forget what it is, Iranian cyber threats. Now it's the Iranians. I mean, we were waiting for cyber attacks from Russia. NATO met because of that last year.
Yep.
It's just crazy how we went from everything has been swapped out: Ukraine for Israel, Russia for Iran, loose tying of it all together. We see coalitions building there, but it's just I don't know how anybody sees this for how they cannot see through the bullshit. I don't know.
I feel like you're totally right. I mean, it really does seem like the spell is broken across the board. It used to be like I had people in my neighborhood with like Ukrainian flags up, Slava Ukraina, I stand with Ukraine, and you just don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
And you don't see this like overwhelming support for America to go rushing into the Middle East. I mean, all I see is opposition. And I've just been shocked at the number of people. Like, I'm not a supporter of Hamas. I'm anti-war. I'm anti-terror. I think that the problems that we are experiencing have to do with the governments of these various nations and groups. It's the people who are in charge. But there is an incredible anti-Israel sentiment all over America, largely arising from the Democrat Party, the ultra left-wing socialists of the Democrat Party. They've been courting the same people who were running the cancel mobs and the doxing scams, the same people that Ethan Klein was kowtowing to on H3 Productions. And now, because he's a Jew, they are absolutely turning on him. It's insane to watch it happening. I feel like they're in such disarray, but the overall effect for the nation is that people are like, what the fuck are they trying to do to us? It's quite obvious. It's so clear.
Well, you see here, a couple of things. Black Lives Matter and Antifa, they work these violent weather underground, terrorist type groups, Marxist groups. They have a lot in common in the way that they operate with radical Islamic factions as well.
Oh yeah.
So over time, they had there's like an identitarian relationship that's been struck up because they are so like each other in the way that they operate. On the other hand, when you go right of BLM and all that, because I can't necessarily say that Republicans are right wing, they're still very progressive. But to the right of BLM and Antifa and all of them, we have seen a big come to Jesus moment about what the ADL really represents as far as censorship and as far as being completely opposed to anything that would actually be in the best interest of everyday Jewish people. They create so much discord. They create so much discord with their meddling that they actually bring heat down on the people they're supposed to represent. So not only do you have the factions, big and relevant factions of the left, who have already found kindred spirit in radical Islam, on the right, we are starting to see how state-sponsored Israeli influence is having a horrible effect on our civil liberties here at home. So, it's just like, of course, everybody feels comfortable saying whatever the hell kind of influence is coming out of Israel in a governmental sense. I think we were all a little bit more confident in saying it's not good.
Yeah. Guys, hold that thought for a second, because I want to take care of our first couple sponsors, but I have more around this that I want to get into. Our first sponsor today is Goldco. Listen, the economy is not going back to how it was before. Remember how quickly it all went bad? First, it was inflation, then another housing market bubble. Banks started crashing, and now the Fed is laying the groundwork for a digital currency. Your money is being attacked from almost every angle. So at this point, you could bury your head in the sand and pretend everything will get better, or take advantage of this opportunity to protect your wealth while you still can. So write this down, because you'll not only get the chance to protect your retirement savings now, you could get up to $10,000 in free silver from Badlands partner Goldco. You heard that right, $10,000 in free silver from Goldco when you visit badlandsgold.com. So don't miss what could be your best opportunity to protect your retirement savings today. Head over to badlandsgold.com now. And then we got one more here from our very good friends over at My Pillow. We'll be back in 60 seconds.
My Towels solved a problem that we've all had with towels. You go into the stores and they feel lotiony and soft, but then you get them home and they wind dry you. That's why I made My Towels. They actually work, they're soft, and they absorb. And now I'm excited to announce 2 brand new lines of My Towels. What makes them the best towels ever is they're now made with 100% long staple Shapir cotton. This is a combed ring spun cotton that makes My Towels even softer and more absorbent than ever. And now you get a 6-piece set for an amazing introductory sale price as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get my towels for only $29.98. Or you can get my designer premium line for just $20 more. Either way, you save 50% now on all my towels. They actually work. What a concept. This offer won't last long, so please order now.
mypillow.com.
All right. Big thank you to both the sponsors, Goldco and MyPillow. Yeah, so thank you guys out there for supporting the sponsors today. All right, so back to this conversation, and you were talking about how the left is becoming somewhat divided on this whole Israel-Palestine issue. Have you guys seen these images from like France and London, these protests that have like in Europe? I mean, they are really feeling it because of the migration policies over there. You have tons of Muslim people coming in from these countries all over Europe. And now, I mean, I think you're starting to see a real threat to Western culture in Europe.
You're starting to see why they have a very hard time cracking down on crime in places like the UK, and they don't want to touch where a lot of the sources of their civil unrest is coming from. Because if you do anything to kick that beehive, look at the amount of people on that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they've traded. I don't know what the benefit was. You know, we go through history. You learn about people like Cecil Rhodes and the Anglo-American world order that they wanted to build and all that stuff. And I wonder when the plan changed, because if you really wanted to reconstitute the British Empire, when the hell did sacrificing Britain itself become strategic to the future? I don't know.
I feel like I don't think it was ever meant to help the British or any country in Europe. I mean, this is clearly a move to promote globalism. By allowing this many migrants into the country, you lose your nationalism a bit, you lose your culture. And once that happens, people become less attached to the idea of their nation, their sovereignty. It becomes more homogenous, I guess. That's like the George Soros mission, isn't it? To kind of dilute the culture of any one individual nation, and remove that sense of nationalism or pride in an individual flag or country, and create that globalist mindset. So I think that's where we're seeing the fruits of all of that right now, more than ever with this issue in the Middle East. The only other aspect of this I wanted to get into was Netanyahu came out this week and said that he was not warned about the attack, that his top generals kept the information from him. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? Do you believe anything Bibi Netanyahu says when he's trying to shuck off the blame here? Because I don't think there was any chance in hell that Israeli intelligence didn't see the situation coming ahead of time.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's a couple of different possibilities here. I mean, obviously, people knew about it. It was definitely foretold. There was warnings. Israel's part of Five Eyes. You tell me that like the greatest surveillance grid in the world, covering the entire world, didn't see this coming. Egypt warned them about it. And Israel has some like major private civilian surveillance grid companies. I think Paragon is who Patrick Byrne was talking about. So it's crazy, and there's no possible way that they didn't see it coming. But did Bibi know about it ahead of time, or did his enemies know about it ahead of time? I mean, there were protests against Bibi, but I've also heard that there were protests against the overreach of the Israeli Supreme Court. I mean, I look at Israel, and it's a lot like the United States of America in that you don't have like a monolithic point of view. You've got people from various political spectrums with various political ideals and things that they want to see happen. And so you're undoubtedly going to have the same thing happening in Israel. I mean, just take a look at the people who are protesting against the war. Oftentimes it's like rabbis and Hasidic Jews and stuff like that. I mean, those are the people standing with the people of Palestine. And so, it's possible that the generals knew and chose not to tell him. If those were people who were aligned with Bibi's enemies, it's also possible that Bibi knew and he's putting the blame on the generals so that there's a sacrificial lamb, somebody they can point to, somebody for him to fire. But I don't really think that it matters at the end of the day. I mean, the Israeli deep state definitely knew that there was an attack coming. And there's no way they didn't. And you go back further than that, and Mossad and the Israeli government founded Hamas. I mean, they put those guys together. They brought them together, funded them, and told them, hey, we're going to back you against Yasser Arafat. And then once Yasser Arafat was assassinated, lo and behold, Hamas ascends to the seat of power.
Mm-hmm. There was a bunch of articles I read this past Saturday sent to me by my good friend Kaiman Molon Labe out there in the chat. And they're all from Israeli news sources, and they're all critiques or criticisms of Bibi Netanyahu for essentially funding Hamas, sending money to Hamas, promoting Hamas. And a lot of them were like, well, this is now, it blowing up in our faces and whatnot. So I just, given a lot of that background that I've read, I feel like this was all constructed and has been a long time coming. The Israeli government kind of setting this up as like Brian Cates put it, to continue fueling the forever war machine in the Middle East. So one last little note here, and you kind of already alluded to this as well. But this was kind of shocking. Trump leading Biden 40 to 17% among Arab Americans as support for Biden collapses over support for Israel after the Hamas terror attack. I found that kind of interesting, given that there's been nobody more apologetically pro-Israel than Donald Trump.
Yeah, and even more in recent days.
Yeah. So
remember the racist anti-Muslim bill?
Yeah.
The Muslim ban. Donald Trump hates Muslims, and now Muslims are backing him.
I mean, I guess the one thing you can say is that regardless of his stances, and who he serves on a geopolitical level outside of the country, there were differences in bloodshed, bodies, body count between both administrations' approach. Maybe it's just a body count issue where people are just really looking at this from a standpoint of value of human life lost. Maybe that's it, because you're right. That is a little bit paradoxical.
It is. I think you hit it on the head there, and that's another really encouraging kind of thing to look at. If people look at Donald Trump as a president of peace, and an anti-war president, like a true anti-war president, and they're able to prioritize that aspect of the way he governs over the mean tweets and all of the media bullshit and the cult of personality stuff, it almost feels like a turning the corner in the way people perceive these people, our leaders or potential leaders or whatnot. Like, if what you said is true, Frank, and people can look past Donald Trump and him moving the embassy to Jerusalem and all the pro-Israel stuff that he says, and look at the result of a more peaceful region and see that as a benefit more than anything else, than any of the emotional crap that leads to more conflict and death. I think that's a huge new paradigm in the way people perceive these things, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Like I said, it's just one of those things where when we're living in times like this, people are reduced to far more base instincts. And maybe you can say that is even a strategy, a back-breaking strategy to really bend people to their wills. I mean, think about what the exhaustion of world wars have done to people, what they're willing to accept to A, have it all just stop, and B, to never let it happen again. So you can go either way with it, that people start just getting down to a little bit more base level decision making, and you can say that this is a good thing because we're not complicating the matter anymore. We're just thinking about saving lives, or it could be a bad thing because we're sacrificing a lot of the liberties and a lot of things that we would normally be negotiating for down the line. You know, obviously there are people who want the bombs to stop dropping right now, but once the dust clears in a couple of months and maybe a couple of years is put behind us, the Palestinians are still in a tough spot. You know,
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Eventually, they're going to start reassessing their position again in the world.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said.
You know, there's another aspect to this conflict that I only just found out about yesterday, and that is the Ben Gurion Canal, which is currently, since 2021, when the Evergrande got stuck in the Suez Canal. It's been under construction. It goes right through Israel's desert, just north of the Gaza Strip. And in order for it to be successfully completed, they've got to dig out a pretty wide swath of rock so that they can fill it up for the canal. And they're going to be big enough to run 2 ships at a time. So it's going to be larger than the Suez Canal. It's going to really open up the waterway for travel, and it's going to speed up the flow of goods throughout the world. And of course, it's going to siphon a lot of money from the Egyptians. But in order to do that successfully, leaving all the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and specifically the north, where a lot of those missiles and rockets are coming from, it would be a tremendously dangerous proposition for the Israelis and for the U.S. and for the British, which are all directly involved in the construction of this. So by excising the Palestinians from the picture, moving them out of at least that northern portion of the Gaza Strip, they can create a larger fortification, make it less likely that missiles or rockets are going to be propelled out of the north of Gaza and into that canal, and they can avert a international incident, if you will. So, yeah, and that's on top of the oil reserves that have been found in the Mediterranean Sea just to the north of Gaza. So I think that there are so many different layers to this situation as to why it's happening and why it's happening right now. The projected timeline for the completion of the canal is 2025. So it's been under construction for 2 years. We're really heading into the home stretch right now. And if there was ever going to be a time to remove the Palestinians, I'd say that right now is pretty coincidental.
I had not even heard about that. That makes a ton of sense, honestly.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that either.
Yeah. Well, with all of this attention to Palestine and Israel, Zelensky is angry and feels betrayed by the West. He says his aides say he's delusional and his belief is turned messianic. I was reading this. He says that they're giving me enough support to survive the war, but not to win it. So Zelensky's very upset. I don't know what he thought he was ever going to win. There was no chance Ukraine was ever going to be victorious in that. It's just kind of funny to me, this guy, the way he perceives things and talks about things.
Yeah, I did a little bit on this last night because I thought it was just, again, how we have completely been shifted over from one thing to the next, and all the people who have been displaced because of it, including the Zelensky guy. This is what Time magazine wrote about it. Listen to this paragraph. Public support for the aid in Ukraine had been declining for months in the U.S., and Zelensky's visit to the U.S. recently did nothing to revive it. Some 41%, that's a dubious number right here. 41% of Americans want Congress to provide more weapons to Kiev, down from 65% in June. I do not believe. I think the same people who are making Joe Biden's approval ratings upward of 30% are making 41% here. That has to be much lower. Yeah. When Ukraine began a major counteroffensive. So this is Time talking about how that support for the war is plummeting. And they go on in this next 2 sentences over here to talk about how the offensive has been excruciatingly slow. It has yielded enormous losses on the side of Ukraine/NATO. And then, of course, it gets around to what you're saying there. So they say in Time magazine, Zelensky feels betrayed by his Western allies. They have left him with the means not to win the war, but to merely survive the war. And then, as you just said, he deludes himself. We're out of options. We're not winning, but try telling him that. His closest advisors are telling Time magazine this.
Well, I mean, go back to the start of this thing. Even before Russia marched into the Donbass, UN officials, UN NATO partners were already in Ukraine. They were already arming Zelensky. They held him up as this like paragon of democracy. You're the last line of defense against Vladimir Putin. Think about how much smoke they blew up his ass before that time. Okay. And then how much money he's gotten since this conflict started, how much raw material, weapons, munitions have all been pushed in. And constantly he's being told, just strung along, you just do this and we're going to win. And then you're going to get to join NATO and then everything's going to be gravy and your legacy is secured. I mean, it is a very, very difficult proposition to be in, to be made to feel like you are some messianic savior for your people, only to eventually find out that it was all bullshit. And as soon as you relent or say, you know what, Ukraine has had enough, you're going to be the guy that lost to Vladimir Putin. And, good luck escaping the gallows after that.
Yeah.
He's done.
Oh, absolutely. I also, the irony of the West calling him like the savior of democracy while he's like shutting down churches and outlawing opposition, the opposition political parties within Ukraine, canceling elections during all of this. I find the irony there to be pretty fantastic as well, right? I mean, the savior of democracy literally shutting down democracy in his own country. All right.
Oh, the irony.
The irony indeed. I want to change gears here, so I'm going to take care of our other two sponsors now.
And real quick, it is good to just say the reason why Time Magazine was able to get an inside access to Zelensky advisor who was willing to talk about his delusions is because his advisor is probably the CIA. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. And we know the CIA is nice and comfy with the American mainstream media, so that works out pretty conveniently there. All right, our next sponsor is the Wellness Company. Our podcast today is sponsored by the Wellness Company. You guys know we're always looking for the best health and wellness products to give us an edge, but if we eliminate business that have gone woke, don't know how many genders there are, or force mandated vaccines on their employees, there are fewer and fewer companies to support. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. The Wellness Company was formed by a team of doctors who lost their jobs for speaking out about the vaccines and pushing back against lockdowns. The Wellness Company offers live telemedicine and a wide range of custom formulated supplements to keep you at your best. Our favorite Wellness Company product is their Spike Support Formula. It's the only product that contains ingredients researched to block and dissolve COVID spike proteins in the bloodstream. We travel a lot, and spike shedding is a real concern. Taking daily spike support has brought me, can bring better mental clarity and increased energy levels. Hundreds of other people, vaccinated or not, have reported similar results. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/TWC and use promo code Badlands to save 10% at checkout. That's badlandsmedia.tv/TWC. Code is Badlands. And then one final sponsor today, and that is No Bugs Beef. Badlanders have set No Bugs Beef on fire. Have you ordered yet? Let's face facts. America's supply chain is going to be increasingly disrupted in the coming months, which means it's not if we'll have a food shortage, it's when. Having enough protein to feed your family for several months is essential for all of your survival. That's why we've partnered with badlandsmedia.tv/no-bugs. They provide sous vide, freeze-dried, all-American beef from ranches in Texas that have never, ever given their cows an mRNA jab. The beef is stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers for maximum shelf life, will stay shelf stable for more than 10 years without refrigeration and with maximum nutrition and flavor. All you need to do is soak in water for 15 minutes and it's ready to eat. These are not your typical survival meats. They're premium cuts of ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, sirloin, and chuck. Get your family ready for the chaos at badlandsmedia.tv/no-bugs and use promo code Badlands for an additional 10% off your order. That's badlandsmedia.tv/no-bugs, promo code Badlands for 10% off. So get your beef, get your spike support. And again, big thank you to all of the sponsors of today's broadcast on Badlands Media. All right, guys, this was very interesting that came up today on my news feed here. A Democrat judge in Connecticut just overturned the results of the mayoral primary election in Bridgeport and ordered a new election to be held after bombshell video evidence of election fraud was found. Quote, the volume of ballots so mishandled is such that it calls the result of the primary election into serious doubt and leaves the court unable to determine the legitimate results of the primary, Judge Clark wrote in his ruling, adding that the videos are shocking in the court to the court and should be shocking to all parties. Judges across the country now have a case to go off when ruling in future mail-in ballot fraud cases. In the thread below, I will note the critical moments from this massive story. And it's the drop boxes, guys.
Yeah.
It's the drop boxes. The same
Hi,
thing.
Ruby. Good to see you again.
Yeah,
she moved north, did she?
2.0.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the 2,000 mules thing, right? People showing up to these drop boxes with way more ballots than they should be carrying, showing up at multiple drop boxes.
It's really like notable about this is that woman is like an officer of the clerk's office. She might even have been the clerk, or maybe she was the clerk's assistant or something like that, but she's a public official and she's the one engaging in the ballot stuffing to get her boss elected.
Wow.
I've got to bring that up on Adolf. You can please send me that link for that thread, because I have Marley Hornick from New York Citizens Audit coming on again on the 7th, and I'd love to talk about this.
Yeah, I'll
see. Here's the thing. Now we have precedent. Yeah, there's the precedent of the judge doing this, and now people can build off of that. I get that point is significant in itself, but about this case in particular, what is the judge? If the judge has now video evidence that shows that there is so much bad stuff that has gone on in this one election that would call the entire result into question, what is going to be done in the interim, where with all the people involved in the nefarious activity, suspicious activity that he witnessed himself? Now it's one thing to say, okay, we're redoing it all, but what about, is there anything that he ordered to go and rectify what has been caught on tape and what has brought insurmountable evidence that cannot be ignored? I mean,
well, that would be a question for the DA. And from what I understand, like, no charges have been announced. I don't know exactly what the laws are up there, but clearly, something outside the boundaries of it was going on. I would hope that this dramatic of a move would be enough to force the district attorney or the county attorney, however they have it set up in Connecticut, to open an investigation and to actually file some charges. I mean, it seems like it's being handed to them on a silver platter. What's really exciting for me about it is the precedent this sets in showing how this sort of activity can completely invalidate an election. So, I mean, is this judge's decision possibly going to be used in other jurisdictions if we can show that this is a practice that happens like all over the place when it's not supposed to?
Yeah.
I mean, again, go back to the 2000 Mules documentary, where you had countless clips like this, the cell phone GPS data to kind of back up the movements of where these people were going, how many drop boxes they traveled to. This should open up the conversation again around that. I'll be interested to see if Donald Trump gets a hold of this story and starts, posting on Truth Social about it, how this will affect the conversation with the criminal cases that he's dealing with in DC on this issue, and with Fani Willis in Georgia, if it'll have any effect there, because I feel like this is reopening that conversation. I don't know if there's any criminal charges. I haven't heard of any criminal charges, but I believe the remedy here is the judge is ordering a new election I don't know. Did you hear the same thing, Zach? Is he overturning it, or?
Oh yeah, he's called for a new election. Yeah,
Yeah,
brand new.
Yeah, so they're just redoing the election altogether. Which this is, I mean, that's big because this was like, this election denier idea or meme or whatever you want to call it that they put out there, this label that they slap on anybody that questions anything about an election. Now, I feel like this kind of pulls that back a little bit and makes it okay to talk about these things a little bit more from a mainstream perspective.
Well, you already see some people. I didn't know, maybe it was because of this. I didn't have the context of this particular story, but I saw some some people in the For You tab today making statements about the frequency of election fraud, that it's exceedingly rare and it's done on such a small level that it's not really impacting any major races. But there's nothing more major than a local race. I mean, seriously, there's nothing more major than that. There's so many. There should be checks and balances to stop anybody up the chain from doing anything with complete autonomy. But you're talking about mayors and city councils. I mean, that is you want to talk about how you're going to impact people's lives in the most directly. That's it. So I wonder where they go to next to move the goalpost. First, it doesn't happen. Then it happens at such a small rate that it doesn't affect anything in a significant way. And how is this going to be used in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, they always do that too. It doesn't exist. Okay, it happens, but just a little bit. Okay, it happened a bit more, but only in this one area, and it's just before you know it, it's
Connecticut's an outlier.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the heels of that, you get this right here. Ken Buck announces his departure from Congress, cites frustration with the GOP's lie that the 2020 election was stolen. So he's leaving Congress because of the 2020 election. Let me see how long this clip is here. I don't know. Do you guys want to listen to 2 minutes of Ken Buck telling us why he's leaving?
Yeah. Let me just say before you start, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out.
Yeah. Let's hear what he has to say here.
Hi, this is Congressman Ken Buck. After careful consideration and much prayer, I have decided not to seek a sixth term in the U.S. House of Representatives. To the people of Colorado's 4th Congressional District, thank you for sending me to Congress.
I'm grateful for your support as we have fought against the left's policies that have had real-world consequences, funding the police, politicizing student loans, provoking inflation with excessive spending.
He's got that Obama whistle.
Borders, decimating our domestic energy production. Americans are rightfully concerned about our nation's future and are looking to Republicans in Washington for a course correction. But their hope for Republicans to take decisive action may be in vain. Our nation is on a collision course with reality, and a steadfast commitment to truth, even uncomfortable truths, is the only way forward. Too many Republican leaders are lying to America, claiming that the 2020 election was stolen, describing January 6th as an unguided tour of the Capitol, and asserting that the ensuing prosecutions are a weaponization of our justice system. These insidious narratives breed widespread cynicism and erode Americans' confidence in the rule of law. It is impossible for the Republican Party to confront our problems and offer a course correction for the future while being obsessively fixated on retribution and vengeance for contrived injustices of the past. This trend among Republicans is a significant departure from the enduring principles of conservatism. We belong to the party of Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. Our movement has always been fueled by immutable truths about human nature, individual liberty, and economic freedoms.
Oh yeah, Lincoln was big for that.
So I almost drew a penis on Ken Buck while you were playing that video. I just figured out that one of these days I'm going to draw on the screen while
we should do that. We should have like those Monday Night Football pens where we can draw the plays on the screen. How do we do that?
Well,
what's the technology we need?
It'll pop up a thing in here. Look in the lower left-hand corner, Frank. It says annotate. You click annotate, and then you can go ahead and draw something.
What? It's already possible?
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
You can draw clown hair on Ken Buck.
Wait a second. Where's the
Big
annotate? What are
nose.
we talking about? Where's this? Apps. Where is it? The apps or the whiteboards? What is it?
Make sure, maybe you don't have the latest version of Zoom. You've got to have the most up-to-date version of Zoom, and there should be a little pencil in the lower left-hand corner. Or maybe it's because you joined as the wrong type of participant.
Hold on.
He's in here as a panelist. He should be able to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because I'm not signed into Zoom?
That could be. Yeah, that could be.
Hold on a second. Wait. Copy username. Copy password. Sign in. Hold on. I'm signing in. Did I sign? Am I different now on screen?
I don't know. If you should see a toolbar on the left with the pencil, and you just grab the pencil and you say,
I see it. Hold on. There we go. Oh, this is gonna be a very bad dickhead. We're gonna there you go. What's his name?
Ken Buck.
We're gonna give some veins and everything for Ken. There you go, Ken. And a little bit of pubic hair. There you go, Ken. Open up. You freak. There's an unguided. I'm gonna give you an unguided tour. I'm gonna give this green dick. This green dick's getting an unguided tour, and Ken.
Oh God.
I didn't know that this is possible. Thank you, Zach.
Oh man, I've been wanting to do this for weeks. I'm glad I brought it up because I didn't want to be rude, and I was like, I hope that's so funny. Oh man.
Well, if there was ever a worthwhile opportunity to bust it out, it's to draw a dick on Ken Buck's face. So
yeah.
Oh boy, I feel like a child that's just so giddy.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Well, that's one hell of a thing for him to say as a parting, especially as a parting speech. To hell with him.
He spent more time there bashing Republicans than talking about the Democrats. So yeah, good written. He's like the Adam Kissingers and Liz Cheney's, these rhinos, these self-hating Republicans that spend more time bashing their own party, their own constituents than the opposition party that's literally driving this plane into the side of a mountain. So I'm glad to see. There's another one too. I can't remember their name.
Good. Let's watch more videos together now.
So I say good riddance, Ken Buck. You don't think that your views necessarily align with the views of modern conservatism? Go ahead, go enter the public sector. You're probably going to make a lot more money there. I'm sure that was his plan all along. That's going to open up the door for a true America First patriot to run for office in his district. And I hope that they're able to make it through the glass ceiling of Washington, D.C. politics.
Yep.
God.
Yeah, man.
I also like how people who are chastising average Republicans always invoke Lincoln and Reagan. I mean, love Reagan. Obviously, Lincoln has a legacy, but they tried to assassinate both of them. Definitely assassinated Lincoln, almost killed Ronald Reagan. It's like a soft warning, I feel like.
It's true. And I can't stand that. Well, that's actually where you get a little bit of that is the that song Hook by Blues Traveler.
Oh, the hook brings you back.
You ever hold on. You ever read the lyrics for that?
Lies. It's been a long time.
No,
it's really good. Listen to the lyrics.
All right.
It doesn't matter what I say, so long as I sing with inflection. That makes you feel I'll convey some inner truth or vast reflection. But I've said nothing so far, and I can keep it up for as long as it takes. And it doesn't matter who you are. If I'm doing my job, it's your resolve that breaks. And he's talking about this is politicians. And then of course there's something amiss. I'm being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this. Still, my confession draws you near. To confuse the issue, I'll refer to familiar heroes from long ago. No matter how much Peter loved her, what made the pan refuse to grow is that the hook brings you back, baby. But there you go. To confuse the issue, they'll always refer to heroes from bygone eras that have nothing to do with them or the company that they've built.
Yeah. Wow. I've never paid attention to the lyrics
It's a
of
great song.
Yeah.
that, but yeah, that's really, really spot on. All right. Well, Zach, I know you have a hard stop here in about 2.5 minutes. So why don't you go ahead and any final thoughts you have today, or plug your show, whatever you want to do here in closing.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were able to get a couple of laughs in. I feel like the work we do is just so dark and heavy, and if we weren't trying to have a good time when we could, then we'd probably just go insane. And I think a lot of those people who do just completely black pill, they're like just mentally unable to see the forest for the trees. I mean, we got a lot of work to do, but I think that there is some real progress that's being made. And I am sincerely grateful to everyone at 412 Productions and everyone at Badlands Media for having me and having us. And you can watch me at 5 p.m. Eastern on Red Pill News Live on my channel at Red Pill 78 on Rumble and the Foxhole. And then you can watch the archives later on Odyssey and BitChute. There's also an audio podcast. You can get that on Apple and Google. I'm banned on most every other places, but there are a couple of other smaller ones. And you can also get it at my website, redpill78news.com, and then Twitter, Gab, Getter, Truth at redpill78 as well.
Very cool.
Good to have you, Zach.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Have a good one.
Peace.
Frank, what do you got coming up here? And by the way, that link to that thread that you asked for, I sent to you on a Twitter DM.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you for that. Tonight, I have my good friend Chris Ann Hall coming back to the show. I haven't spoken to her in a couple of months.
Oh, awesome.
And I want some things. I have some things I want to ask her about. I have some hypothetical questions, like what she would do if we had a Speaker of the House, Chris Ann Hall, and she was in this position right now with an unfriendly Senate and an unfriendly White House. What would she do with all the only constitutional powers? What would she be doing? So I can't wait to hear what she says there.
Yeah.
I also want to talk to her about the 19th Amendment a little bit more. That'll be an addendum to the occult feminism show that we did a few weeks ago. I'm really interested in what she has to say there, and some other things there too. It's just going to be a little bit of a chill current events thing. Second half, we have to watch the first commercial Christmas disaster, corporate Christmas commercial disaster of the year. Going to watch that and a few other things. It'll be a good solid 2 hours of jam-packed full of variety. So I hope you all join me. QuiteFrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole and Pilled.net, or anywhere else too, in the early goings of the show, at least. So thank you guys.
Very cool, man. Hey, thank you for the time, Frank, as always. Have a great show tonight, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
All right, be well.
All right, there he goes, Frankie Val. Again, Quite Frankly TV is where you find all things Quite Frankly. He goes live at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. Zach Payne of redpill78news.com goes live at 5 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Thursday. And then I believe his weekend shows on Friday and Saturday night. I think they start at 8 p.m., but I might be slightly off on that. Anyway, you can get all that information at redpill78news.com. My name is Adel Nero. My channel is 412 Productions. You can find us on Rumble. You can find us on DLive, Odyssey, Cloud Hub. On Twitter, I'm at 412anon87. At Truth Social, I am at 412. But the best place to find me is pilled.net. It's 412 Productions there. And I see so many of the Pilled fam hanging out. How would you guys over on pilled.net like to do a little after party today? We'll listen to some music, take calls till about 6 p.m. I'm feeling like I want to keep going for a bit longer. I'm not ready to put down the mic quite yet, so to speak. So if you guys want to keep hanging out, if you guys want to call into the show, we'll do that here in a minute, and we'll do a little after party. Those of you guys watching on Badlands Media, if you guys want to join us on pilled.net for the after party, we'd love to have you. I'll put the link to the stream in the Badlands Rumble chat. Just go ahead and click on that. It'll take you right into the stream. And if you guys want to call in, I would love to hear some Badlands people jump over, watch the second half, and give us a call. I'd love to hear from you guys. So I put the link in the live chat for you guys if you want to watch. Those of you watching on 412 Productions Rumble, I'll put the link for you guys as well in the chat. Pop on over. I'm going to shut down all the other platforms and streams except for our pilled.net. Again, the link is in your live chats. Otherwise, give us a follow and we'll catch you all on the next one. So again, thank you guys all so much for hanging out with us, for Taking It Back, featuring Frankie Val and Zach Payne. Again, my name is Adel Nero. Come follow me at 412 Productions across all platforms. And yeah, let's take some calls. Let's have some fun. We'll be back in a little bit here.
Pill.net is proud to host 412 Productions, exclusively on the true home of free speech. To continue watching the show, we are here to help you over to Pilled. If you're new to the platform, just click on the welcome link provided. It will then automatically walk you through signing up for your free account. If you already have a Pill.net account, follow the link provided directing you straight to 412 Productions channel. We are excited to have you join the Pilled family. And if you have any questions at all, please email support@pill.net. Enjoy the rest of 412 Productions on pill.net. Free speech lives here.
Slow